one of a very large team, so I can't take full credit for the project. There's a whole load of people involved. So, as I mentioned this morning, in a nutshell, the Culture Shock project started with a manifesto written by Culture Unlimited about 5 years ago. And about the same time, one of our curators had attended a digital storytelling event down in Wales and came back buzzing about the possibilities of this new technique. So a bid was put together, and we were successful in receiving a major grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund, as Ian said, a massive grant of £400,000, which was pretty fantastic. And the project was also supported by Renaissance North East, the Tyne Wear Business Partners, and the Gillian Dickinson Trust. And I think one of the key things for the project was that it was a partnership project. It wasn't just Tyne Wear Archives Museums. We managed the project, but it was a partnership with Beamish, Bowes, Hartlepool and Culture Unlimited. And we set out to collect 1,000 digital stories that were inspired in some way by our museum and gallery collections. And as you can see from the pictures, we worked with a wide range of groups of different ages and backgrounds, older people's groups, youth groups, schools, colleges, Black minority ethnic groups, refugee and asylum seekers, the justice system, disability support groups, rural communities. The North East, for those of you who live here, will know that it's an extremely diverse part of the country, and we hope that by collecting these stories from a wide sort of background, we hope that it will reflect the diversity of the region. And as Pip mentioned this morning, we hope that by sharing these stories within groups taking part and with the wider public, that this diversity and different life experiences could be shared and that people could learn from one another. But we also recognise that some people aren't part of organised groups as well, but are still part of the North East community. So we organised one-off digital storytelling workshops, sort of one-day events, which were open to everyone. So we'd also encourage that sort of further mixing and sharing. As you can see from some of these pictures here, one of the unique things about Culture Shock compared to other digital storytelling projects was the idea of stories being inspired by some way by the museum and gallery collections, though this idea changed and adapted as the project developed. Therefore, one of the key parts of the project was getting people into the stores, getting people to see the collections, getting objects out, meeting curators, taking handling boxes out, so this sort of inspiration from those museum objects could happen. So, I'd like to show you a story which is inspired by one of our temporary exhibitions which looked at mental health in the North East. We had a temporary exhibition on a Discovery Museum in Newcastle called Mind the Gap, and Nick's story is about his own sort of mental health issues, so that should come on after this.
Stand up and be counted, or are you afraid? Stigma. For as long as I can remember, it's been different. Rage is all I feel, grey is all I see. I was born into the wrong life. When I was a child, colours were so vivid, so powerful, people were monsters. School was lost on me, I couldn't understand numbers. I could draw and paint things people couldn't visualise. I felt things much deeper than other people, thought things other people didn't think. Thoughts, images, ideas came so fast I couldn't focus, like a radio endlessly tuning in and out of stations. Endless energy, endless accidents, endless fights and confrontation, rage, aggression. But there was drawing. Smells, sound, hurt my head. Light was too bright, pains in my head. Massive highs, terrible lows. Months at a time of non-functioning behaviour. Losing friends, being bullied, pointed at. School absence, teachers not understanding. Beatings. Anxious mother, angry father, sadness, heartbroken, alone. Colours, shades, tones so bright, faces so bright, distortion. Shapes floating and moving in the darkness. I can't trust anyone. Punching walls, causing trouble, going mad, losing my mind, broken marriage, homelessness, anger, rage, frustration, outcast from family, illness. Is this normal? New job, corner turned, birth of son, painting, tutoring, selling, the Golden Jubilee Award, working in the community, support from my employer, running my studio, reaching out from the dark. Vincent van Gogh, Winston Churchill, Florence Nightingale, Charles Darwin, Abraham Lincoln, Tony Hancock, Stephen Fry. I'm in good company, so I'm told.
And there are too many really sort of mentioned in this presentation. I've only got 20 minutes, but I think a highlight for me, and certainly a lot of other people involved on the project, was the Culture Shop, which we opened in Eldon Square in Newcastle city centre for about 6 weeks last summer. And this was done through the government's National Empty Shop Scheme. And it was a great way of getting the project, getting the museum, getting the collections out into the community. And it was run by staff and a team of volunteers. Many of them were participants who had previously sort of taken part in workshops. We had a mini cinema that you could sort of see in a previous photo there, where we sort of showed stories. We had a display of objects to sort of look at and importantly handle. And we also had a workshop area where we held some sort of one-day digital storytelling workshops, but also folk music workshops, creative writing, filmmaking. So that was a real sort of highlight for a lot of people, I think. And I think we engaged with about 1,500 people over that sort of 6-week period. I think another highlight sort of towards the end of the project was the celebration events, which we held in the Great Hall at Discovery Museum. We managed to get about 150 participants together at the end of the project. And it was just a great opportunity for them to sort of meet one another, they sort of not met each other before, see old friends. We had the wonderful organ from the Star and Shadow Cinema as our entertainment, and just lots of sort of sharing of stories and sharing of experiences. So that was a really lovely event. But I think the main highlight of the whole project, of course, and Chris will talk more about this next, was the benefits to participants involved in the project. And I'd like to show you another story now, made by Henry, who I believe was coming here today. I've not seen him yet, but his story sort of shows how art isn't just for the upper classes, it's for everybody. And his story sort of used as part of a debate on Twitter, actually, about sort of cuts to funding and how arts are just seen, it shouldn't be just for sort of the upper classes. So there's Henry there presenting his story at one of our festival events. So his story will come up next.
During my working life, it was all rather dehumanising, being stuck in a factory on the Tyne Wear train estate for approximately 50 years, working with noisy and very dangerous machinery as a printer. And the very near sort of mention of art and culture in a man's world was sort of frowned upon. Then, when Anthony Gormley's sculpture, The Angel of the North, was erected, it changed my life, as it can be seen from the window of my house. And the very day it was erected, I can remember the weather, in this gigantic structure there, inspired me to enroll in a part-time course in art and sculpture in Gateshead College at the age of 60. Then I was lucky to be able to visit Florence and see the architecture and sculpture of Michelangelo at first hand. A thing like David, you know, the size of it, the scale of it just blew me away. It was just so incredible. And that was another inspiring thing, you know. But anyway, the thing about the Angel of the North is that because it was so iconic for this region, where it was built, you know, was a pit heap. And this, when I first came to Gateshead, it was heavy manufacturing, it was dirty, and it's just incredible how in the last 10 years, the Angel of the North has created an art and culture and scene in the northeast, which is you know, tourists, and it's a maze anyway. So anyway, but I'm very, very proud now that my address is in Gateshead, the place that's actually been transformed by the art and culture. And this in turn has given me an opportunity to have a wonderful, uplifting interest in the arts and make many new friendships.
So, I've sort of run through a few sort of lessons learned from the project because there were quite a few. One of the key decisions when planning the project at the very beginning was that we would train all of our staff in the process so they could deliver projects themselves. And as Barry said previously, you know, all of our staff who took part in the workshops told their own stories. I think the best way to appreciate what you're expecting your participants to go through is to go through it yourself. But by training our staff, it meant that better, stronger relationships with groups and individuals were developed as staff were really closely involved in the digital storytelling process. It was also great personal development for staff. They were learning new skills, and we trained in total about 50 members of staff across all the partners. The majority of them are still with us, but even those that have moved on have obviously taken those skills to their next jobs and their new roles. But it also helps ensure a legacy to the project, as it's meant that we've retained those skills in-house so that future digital storytelling projects can still take place even though the main Culture Shock project's finished. We also set ourselves an ambitious target, 1,000 stories. Not only were we embarking on one of the biggest one-off digital storytelling projects in the world, we'd never done digital storytelling before, so it was a huge learning curve for everybody. The project initiation process, the setup, the training, the recruitment, all took much longer than was anticipated, but it was really important to get it right. The way that we work with groups at Tyne Wear as well, we deliver bespoke projects tailored to the groups that we're working with, meant that we couldn't always deliver a one-size-fits-all style workshop with the groups we were working with, so we had to adapt the process to the groups we worked with in order for everyone to reach that target of producing their own digital story. And some groups took longer, some groups were smaller than anticipated, so less stories were made. Others wanted to do animation, as you can see here, which often takes a little bit more time. All of these combined made reaching that target really challenging, and the biggest lesson for me, I think, was don't be afraid to review your targets. It's not a sign of failure. And once we'd explained to the HLF the issues and the reasons why, they were more than happy for us to review that target because us and them were much more interested in the process and the qualitative outcomes than the numbers. And we actually ended up exceeding our revised targets and in total engaged with nearly 40,000 individuals through our screening programme and our engagement process. I'm going to stop that because it's got ahead of me. The archiving side of the project was also an important lesson learned, and I think the idea of archiving and curating digital stories is still, I think, still to be sort of picked up within the digital storytelling community. We've accessioned all the digital stories into the collections that have now become museum objects, which, as Mel will sort of talk about and Helen later on, has brought with it a whole load of issues and dilemmas from sort of file formats and sizes, copyright, consent, accessioning and access to stories. And we're still learning, you know, even with the Legacy project this year, you know, we're still learning from everything that we've done on the project. So I'd like to sort of finish really with a new story. Since the project finished at the end of March, we've been focusing on the legacy of the project to ensure that the process and all the stories are embedded within the organisation, and we've also been exploring sort of new opportunities through commissioning and business relationships. But one area of work that we've really been exploring is our work with people with dementia. And some of the outcomes of this project in the slide I'm going to show you have been really quite interesting. So this story was made by Joan with a group from Dementia Care Partnership in Newcastle. It's slightly longer than a traditional digital story, and her story is all about family, and it will be featuring in our upcoming exhibition, What's Your Story?, which is looking at family history early next year. So this is Joan's story.
Okay, you've told us a little bit about your father, that he had a lovely voice.
Oh, they all had beautiful voices.
voices, yes. My dad had a lovely soft Irish voice, singing voice.
And I've seen some pictures of him appearing in different shows.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
right.
seen a picture that you brought in when he was doing the sand dance.
Yes, I used to do the sand dance as well.
Yeah. So was that, how did you get involved in that?
Through the church, the Northumberland Square Christ Church. There's one it's still here, the Square Presbyterian. And that was, they used to do all the pantomimes and everything at Christmas time. And that was the church we went to, was the one we used to go to. And of course it all rolled in from there and went on. And of course once you've got one member of the family, you've got the rest of the family, and they all had lovely voices, as I say. My cousin, I'm talking about all of this, you know, what we're doing at the moment. My cousin, Brian, told me that the best voice in his estimation, and he had a good ear, he's a ship's captain now, and he said that Auntie Pat was the best singer really, and his mother was Auntie Penny, and she was the one that sang for the Queen. So I mean, you should know what he's talking about, you know.
And Auntie Peggy had a stage name, didn't she?
Yeah, Margaretta Rosella. Very posh, very flowery. Margaretta Rosella. Maddie Rosie. No, but that was the way it was, you know, Margaretta. You did that at that time. You had names like that, you know, sort of. I mean, it was war years and things like that. So it sounded lovely.
Glamorous.
Glamorous and that's it. Margaretta Rosella. And she was a glamorous person. And our Billy, I mean, that's my Auntie Elsie's son, our Billy was a fantastic piano player. And if you heard him play boogie, bah, God, when he came to the bugle one, you know, you know, oh hey, fantastic, really lovely. And then our Brian, my cousin Brian, that was Auntie Peggy's son, he was a fantastic piano player.
Tell us about Auntie Lena.
Auntie Lena, right, well Auntie Lena was tall and slim, and she was the mother of June, and June was Miss England. She was the one that became Miss England. You know, she was a very striking lady. And she was tall, which makes it even more, you're more striking when you're tall.
Do you enjoy singing?
I love to sing, but nobody loves to hear it. You know very well I am not allowed to sing, right? So stop it. Don't you ask me to.
I was going to say, would you like to give us a burst of your favourite song?
You're going to say that like that. Oh, goodness grief. What can I crucify for you? What used to be my favourite one? I've even forgotten them because I've been told so many times I can't sing. Oh, what was it I used to sing? Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina in the morning. No one could be sweeter than my sweetie when I meet her in the dawning. When the blossoms and roses twine around the door. La 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 dee 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 dee. I want to sing once more. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina in the morning. And no one could be sweeter than when I meet her in the dawning. If I had a Aladdin's lamp for only a day, I'd make a wish and here's what I'd say. And nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina in the morning.
You can sing better than I can, Joe.
Oh dear me.